Hey everyone, and welcome to this special edition of A Day in the Life. My name's Simon Linstead. I'm the host and the founder of the InfoSec Live community. And today I'm joined by someone very special. I'm joined by James Murphy of TechVets, and he's here to tell you today all about how they help military and service leavers gain employment in the UK. James, please say hello to everyone and tell everyone a bit about yourself.
Hi, look, first and foremost, thanks, Simon. Great to be on. First time as well, and I'm not that regular on the whole live stream stuff. So this is the first time I can't just say, look, can we cut that? Can we go back? Can we re-record that bit? So hopefully we get it right first time. So look, I'm the CEO of TechVets, but I was a service leaver at one point myself. I served for 2 decades in the British Army. During that time, clearly I wasn't quite as good as I thought I was at my job. Ended up on the wrong side of an RPG and ended up with a huge sort of contrasting career where I had to have this career change into something new. I did loads of prep, but then when I left, I'd gone down this wonderful new pathway, and I still just didn't really know where I fitted properly. So, I use TechVets myself to get out the military and onto the other side and into a cyber career.
How long ago was that, James?
Well, when I left,
Yeah.
end of 2018. I officially left in January 19, but I started with Government Digital Services as part of the Cabinet Office in October, I think it was, 18.
Okay, and you enjoyed what you did with TechVets so much, you ended up being their CEO. So
Yeah.
you need to tell us firstly how that happened, because I'm sure lots of people will be interested. And then secondly, please tell us a bit more about how TechVets were formed to start with.
Yeah. So, well, in fact, TechVets hadn't long, been born, I suppose. March 18, so it hadn't been around, even a year when I first joined as a member. And the four co-founders at the time had volunteered their time essentially to get it to where it was, and they didn't really have boots on the ground, so to speak, to take a military phrase. So essentially, I volunteered for them. I supported them with some of the operational delivery, certainly within the community, and then took on the role when they managed to get the funding for the first CEO. I started in January 2020. But the reason why I joined TechVets as the CEO, I mean, clearly as a member, it was great. I managed to use the community, use the training, etc., and land a job. But there was something about the organization which I loved, and it was essentially the foundations that it was built on. Really sort of principled, really morally led organization that had everyone that they supported at the very core, and that really sort of sold it to me.
Okay, what was the biggest challenge that you see that military leavers face? So it's a massive sea change coming from a kind of institutional environment of being in the forces and I suppose following orders to a certain extent and then being thrust out into the corporate world. What do you think the biggest challenges are?
Well, first and foremost, when someone leaves the military, they hand in their notice, and they have a year. Most of the time, they have a year before they leave. Now, what's quite, I suppose, different to someone outside the military. When I took the TechVets job, I landed the role, I signed the contract, I knew it was in the bag, and then I put my, handed in my notice with GDS, knowing that there was limited risk. With the military, you're actively walking towards unemployment because you're not going to have employment 1 year out. Additionally, because that's such a complicated time, when you get near the end of that year point, you're starting to look for jobs, but you're starting to get really quite nervous about what happens, the so what. If I leave, most of the time when people leave the military, by the time they leave, they've got a family, they've got a house, etc. So I suppose there's very high risk that you're going to be unemployed. You're not going to be able to pay the bills. You have a real fear of failure. You're going to leave the military where you've excelled at something. You've been an expert in your field, to go and essentially start again, because most of the roles within the military aren't easily replicated outside.
Sure.
So there is that issue with that sort of financial aspect. You're going to have the concern that the imposter syndrome may kick in. You're going to have a fear of failure, but additionally, it is a different way of doing things in the military. So the skills that are very transferable are what we call the soft skills. The the cognitive skills and the things like the leadership and management of people, teamwork, and all that, solving problems. That's fine. But within the military, generally the way you progress is through those soft skills. To get to the next rank, you have to show that you are responsible enough, mature, that you are, someone who can bring a team together, and do all of those things. What you're not necessarily doing is focusing on a technical career path. So when you leave and you want to get into cybersecurity or technology, for example, clearly those skills are going to be lacking. So you then have the issue of how to bridge that gap, and then you're faced with the conundrum that everyone looking for a job is facing at the moment. Whilst it is absolutely a candidate's market, there still doesn't seem to be the opportunity springing up for those people trying to break into new careers, career changes, graduates, or military service leavers, or returners to work. I think there are certain groups of people that just need to be able to be taken in as the right candidate and then sort of learn the skills quickly. And I think bridging that gap is something that we have to do at TechVets. That's why we were set up.
Although I think a lot could be said and a lot be taken from what the military do with regards to how they promote within the ranks, because the corporate world could take a leaf out of that book, couldn't they?
Well, no, I think
no comment question.
no, I think my experience is that I went into the first team I went into. It was very programmer heavy. These technical skills. I was looking at people thinking, wow, how have you got to this point? It's incredible. But then when it came to dealing with people, that was very much, or James, can you go and speak to that team, or can you liaise with the with the vendors and manage the sort of vendor relationship? I found that easy because I was used to going into a new role, into a new unit, maybe working with other services, other militaries from across the world, and just starting those relationships very quickly, knowing that I had to build it super quick because a few months later I may be up and moving on again. So I think there is it's the human side of things where military are really strong. There is a lack of really strong leadership, generally speaking, across tech and cyber, but that's primarily because those people that have moved into those roles are the ones that are the technologists first. That's not necessarily anything on them. It's the system.
I think a lot of it is the infancy of the industry as well.
Agreed.
It's not as mature as where I come from, financial services, where you've got the ingrained people within the industry who've got those soft skills, and they tend to be the ones doing X job, and the technical ones are the ones who are doing the power planning, all the research behind. The cyber industry, the leaders tend to be the techies, and I think, without wanting to disrespect any of them, because I love lots of you, there's a real gap between, or a communication barrier between them and businesses and engaging in cybersecurity at the moment, because there's never been a time in history that I can remember where cyber attacks have been so prevalent and so much in the news, yet we still seem to have this massive lack of engagement from what I'd call the SME sector with regards to businesses. I mean, we're going off topic a bit because we're meant to be talking about TechVets, but maybe bringing in some military service leavers might help with that as well.
Yeah, I think so. Generally, the feedback that I get is that once they're in, if an organisation takes a little bit of a chance, because they are slightly higher risk than a 5, 6, 7 year professional who within those 5 years has done all sorts of stuff and built all sorts of skills and experience. They're not cheap. So the balance is you take a little bit more risk with someone without that experience in industry, but with a military person, that they're going to pick up that stuff quickly. Additionally, they're going to be stuck straight into the center of that team, bringing it together, helping each member to develop as an individual, as well as bringing that sort of team capability up a notch.
And that's a huge part of the missing.
It really is.
Yeah,
it really is. It really is. And where people, there's a lot of introverts within cybersecurity, within any technical field, to be honest. And you have to be able to have that empathy and to be able to see an individual and understand that not everything works for them, and try to dive into the various different options that could be available for that one individual, at the same time keeping a handle on the rest of the team, whilst also keeping an understanding up above of of what the vision and mission is and trying to link that all together. And I think, again, that's something, if you look at the military orders process, it's all about understanding your boss's job and your boss's boss's job and what they're thinking and what they're trying to achieve. And that helps you to understand what the vision is. And the way that's boiled down from top to bottom and then understood bottom to top, it helps an individual like myself come out of the military, jump into an organization, and understand a lot more very quickly than what your average.
Well, you look at the typical situations in companies where people always talk about relating to the board and being able to get across to the board and explain to them why it's so important and get their engagement. But we've mentioned this before on other streams. It's equally as important the other way. If you've got a team of techies who've got no idea why the board keep turning them down for their projects or what they think are essential items, again, you've got to teach people how to communicate both ways, which is important. Again, that's definitely something where military service leaders can help. Let's move on to how TechVets helping military service leaders with all this.
Yeah, I think this has been something that will grow and develop day by day. And I think we never really have it 100% right because industry moves so quick. And you've always got to be in a position to learn. One thing that we did get right, though, straight from the off, was that we built TechVets with 3 core pillars. One being the community, and that underpins everything. Then we have the training and education, and then finally the employment support. And essentially, you could almost follow that sort of process through those 3. When someone comes into TechVets, they join the community. That's the first thing we tell them to do. And we have a Discord server. It's a closed community. 3,143 people, I think it was today.
Wow.
And that's great. And there's a lot of people in there that need help. But the most important part of that is the 24% who are veterans who are already in industry. They're already out there. They're hands on keyboard doing these roles that other people are doing. And you've employed a very similar model with InfoSec Live. Very similar communities in many ways. You've got those experts, those veterans of industry. Our veterans are also veterans of industry. And what you're able to do is, rather than me sit there and try to preach to hundreds of people about what is right, having only ever experienced cyber threat intelligence personally as a specialism, what you're doing is bringing them straight into a community where they say, well, I want to get into digital forensics. Someone in there will be an expert in that and can dive in and start helping them. And it's almost instant as well.
It's also that insider knowledge as to what the job's actually like, isn't it? Because for me, wanting to be a pen tester, although I am now studying again to do it, but more out of embarrassment of my lack of knowledge on the area than wanting to do a job, it's not a job I'd want to do every day. It doesn't suit my skill set. And I think until you speak to people who've been in the industry a long time, you don't know that, do you?
Oh, Simon, that's it. It's a really, really important point. I think, as much as we want to help people into careers, what I also want to do is enable people the quickest possible option for them to understand it's not for them. and then essentially, you want them to bugger off and find something else, but to do it where they haven't already spent loads of money, they haven't wasted loads of time. And when I go back to my original point about one of the challenges, you have a year. That's when you hand your notice in. The time's being eaten into already. By the time you've got access to advice and guidance, it may be a month or 2 into that year. By the time you're able to access courses and training, it may be another 2 or 3 months after that. So your time is very precious. If you come into TechVets and we don't provide you that advice and guidance you need, you're going to be 2 months to go and think, oh Christ, I've gone down the wrong rabbit hole here. I need to then rethink what I'm doing. So it gives people that point of capture to understand their start point. And then that continues to help them anyway. They've got that ready-made network. They've got peer-to-peer channels for sort of learning and stuff as well. The education and training is essentially building partnerships. Why would I recreate training that already exists? There are fantastic companies out there with great training, industry-leading technologies, like your Splunk stuff. You've got training programs and academies with the likes of Fortinet. We've got Immersive Labs who have given us an academy, all the way through to some of the wider technology stuff with Pega and, Google and others. And there's loads to mention. If I went through all of them, crikey, we'd probably take up the whole time.
The strategic partnerships is definitely the way forward. I want to drag you back to a point you made about if someone was looking to get into digital forensics, you'd link them up with someone who's in that. And This is an area I see a lot of in the industry where people, I think, are making a mistake, and that's in gaining mentors. And I've seen a few people jump into mentor relationships with mentors who do a completely different job to the one that they're interested in,
Yep.
and perhaps aren't particularly similar as people or get on particularly well. And what happens in the few months I've been in the industry, 6 months later, you see these people and they're back to the starting point again. So the fact that you said that you match people up within the community is a huge benefit, because
Yeah.
those
Well, I
rabbit
mean,
holes are really deep and long if you go down them too far.
yeah. Well, I mean, the other benefit is I don't actually need to do anything. You know, I provide them access. They jump in, they ask their questions. Someone in the benefit of the military community is it's quite tight, and it's even stronger outside of the military than it was in, because people, you know, once they get out, they kind of want to tie themselves back into that community. They want to pay it forward or give back something to the community that's helped them. So essentially, someone drops a message in and asks a question. People are chomping at the bit to try to provide that advice because they just want to help out, which is really great, you know. And I think, but you mentioned mentors. You know, mentors were a very very important part of my journey, and I found from sort of 5 years before I left, I was starting to create those mentor relationships with others. You know, but you have to have the range. You don't just need one mentor. You know, I've
Agreed.
always had a few. I had one who was, you know, is a strengths coach and has been for decades. An incredible, you know, in fact, you'd be wrong of me to not refer to him as a wizard. Um, the late,
You're gonna have to name drop him now.
no, I shan't, I shan't. But the late Mark Milton as well, who was one of our, you know, one of our co-founders, who sadly passed last summer. You know, his was not just the TechVets, but the whole industry. He was my mentor. He was a deep tech specialist. But then there was others there as well who were similar to me in many ways, driven, focused, gone down a different path, but did it before me. So I had that very relevant experience there for me to drag myself
I think that's
along.
a very good point. It's not just one mentor you need, is it? And I've got people who I speak to on a daily basis, ranging from kind of, I suppose, techies to business leaders, and I try and take advice from as many people as I can.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's about maybe not taking advice from everyone, but definitely listening to what everyone has to say and seeing what's relevant to
Yeah.
you, perhaps.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of our volunteers, you know, Dave Grant, he finished his career with Goldman Sachs. You know, he was a managing director there. He left to do some traveling and ended up coming back and helping me out. He's a veteran himself. And he started off doing some stuff, and I very quickly realized that there was so much I could learn from him, that, you know, he became almost like a shoulder for me to lean on, for me to, you know, as a sounding board for me to put ideas to. You know, but some people will find that even as a mentor, you know, they learn from the people that they're mentoring, and the mentee can be very positive, you know, impact
I had the same
on.
conversation with Mohammed, who's a mentor in our community today, and one of the main reasons he does it is because of what he gets out of it as well. And
Yeah.
there is no such thing as altruism, is there? Helping people makes you feel good for a start.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, look, mutual benefit is great. You know, if there's mutual benefit, mutual interest, then there's always going to be a requirement, a demand for both parties, which means that you know you're going to get a lot more out of it. You know, it does help, because people's time is precious. You know, and everyone has very busy lives. It's difficult enough to get time with family these days. So I think making the most of that time, is incredibly challenging.
Absolutely. So I've put the link at the bottom. It says register. I take it you have to register. So for any potential service leavers or veterans watching, what is the process? What do they do?
Well, so I did notice one of the questions that came in was
It's
from
Kerry.
Paul,
Hey, Kerry.
in the US. Look, thanks for the question. We did used to support people across the Five Eyes community, but we switched that model. One of the main reasons was because as much as we could provide access to training in the community was almost entirely UK based, and therefore we couldn't provide the support, especially the employment support necessary for our, you know, for our brothers and sisters over in the US military, as well as the other three nations. However, there are equally fantastic organisations that you can tap into. If you are a British military person serving, if you are in your resettlement period or you're a veteran, then you can sign up at the TechVets website, www.techvets.co, and essentially you go through a registration process. you'll get free access. Everything's free, so that's, there's no issues there. Once you're in, you'll get access to everything you need. If you are a military spouse, a British military spouse or partner, then we will be opening up our services to you. All of the services will be going live in March, by the end of March, most likely the last minute of March. The way things are going, we're getting incredibly busy. But that will really take some of the pressure off military families as well, enabling their partners and spouses to really get that support. In the US, the best organization for you to go to would be VetSec.
Oh, look at that, seamless.
Perfect. Yeah, it's coming in just in time. So VetSec is chaired by Tom Marsman. Fantastic guy. They are very similar. Rather than Discord, they use Slack. They've got the similar sort of partnerships. You can get access to their Veteran Digital Cyber Academy through Immersive Labs. They've got, if we've got it, pretty much they've got it. And Tom and I have been working together, as well as some other organizations in the Five Eyes community, to sort of bring that community together in a sense, so we can help pool resources, connect people, etc. So VetSec are really growing fast and strong. If you're in Australia, then you should be speaking to Heath Moody, Vets into Cyber. Some very early stages, but the guy is fantastic. He's really got the same principled approach. So get in touch with him. His is a network at the moment. And in Canada, you've got Coding for Veterans. But yeah, if you're British, then if you're British military, then TechVets is the way forward.
So let's talk about what the future holds. So TechVets was established, I think you said, in 2018. So we're only 4 at the moment. Yeah. You've achieved absolutely stacks already. As the CEO, what is your mission for the next 3 years, James?
Wow. So absolutely. The first and foremost was scaling a team. I don't need a massive team, but just to bring on one person at a time for a specific reason, because at the moment it's just been me. I'm the only full-time person.
I feel you there.
Yeah, well, so we will be bringing on we've gone through the whole recruitment process, and our new training coordinator will be starting at the end of April. He will be responsible for knitting all of that stuff together, which will be absolutely phenomenal. Beyond that, I'll be looking at increasing some of the training offering outside of the first and foremost the obvious sort of cyber disciplines, but also into wider IT, especially around things like data science. Clearly, you can't teach someone to be a data science on a course, but you can give them enough to get their foot in the door as a data analyst and start working their way along that career.
You can also help identify that it's the right role for them as well, can't you, James?
Oh,
back to that
absolutely,
point again.
absolutely.
It's a very specific role, data science. Certainly not one that I haven't quite got the eye for the spreadsheet that you need for that.
Yeah.
I've got another question here. Shall I bring it up? I think it's relevant.
Yeah.
So from Patrick Ariye.
Yes. Yeah. So if you are currently serving in the British military, absolutely. So we support everyone who has served for at least 1 day. It doesn't matter if you're still serving. And all the way through until you get sick of me and my live streams. But you're always free to leave once you're done with it. But yeah, so there is a slight restriction though, because some of the companies are providing access to training for people who are either underemployed or unemployed, and I can basically translate that to being people who are officially in their assessment period readying to leave the military, because it's a very complex and challenging time, and most of the time it's a career change. For veterans who are out there in a role that's non-tech, non-cyber, who want a career change into cyber or tech, and those veterans who are unemployed. If you fit those categories, then you get access to everything. If you are in full-time service or a reservist, then you don't get access to everything, but you still get a lot of stuff. And the main thing is you get access to the community.
I would say this because I founded my own community 8 months ago, but community is so important. And
perfect.
The reason I founded mine was because of the divisiveness around the world. And I spent 2 years kind of recovering from my own issues that gave me the time to watch the news and get more engrossed in what was going on around the world. And then after dipping my toe into this industry, sort of beginning in January last year, there's a massive disconnect. You know, although there's lots of different places for people to hang around already, I really did feel there was a place for a kind of independent point for people to get together. And I think it's that community hub that you've got, James, that is crucial to people succeeding. It's what drives absolutely everything. And you see the word social impact on every big company's business plan at the moment, because it's clearly, you know, the terminology social impact can mean lots of different things, but the one thing that it does mean to me is people are sick of buying off sales funnels and buying online, and people want
Yeah.
that human contact back again. And especially when you're looking at a new career and stepping out of, say, the military, it's a massive step, and you need support. You desperately
Yeah,
need
I
support
think,
to do that.
yeah, I mean, it's absolutely nail on head. But then again, you know, to take it back to the initial points that we were making, it's a difficult time when you're leaving the military, and you've got to try and transfer stuff that is so foreign to hiring managers. At the same time, you don't really know what your skills, where your skills fit, and how to translate them properly. So again, by bringing them into a community with people that have already done that, you
Yeah.
know, even down to things like running, you know, a fireside chat session with, you know, we had JJ Davey, who jumped in as, you know, someone who's experienced in a SOC. You know, what skills do you use day to day that you used in your military career? Oh, well, you know,
All
A,
of
B,
them.
and C. But yeah, pretty much. Yeah, other than the shooting part of it, I think there's
And I
probably
think you
a
used
lot
to
of
work on submarines, so there might be some other bits that weren't relevant
yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
But I think, you know, I think it's that support network first and foremost. You know, it's gonna help you if you have a bad day and you want to have a rant. You know, you can do, and there's people in there that understand exactly where you're coming from, where you're going, and the problems and the issues that you're facing. Oh, everyone's an individual, but essentially, there's a lot of people in there. There's always someone who's been through the same thing, and I think that's, you know, when you mention things like, you know, bringing people together, it's exactly that. You know, it's to stop those individuals being isolated. You know, there is a problem with military service leavers who they may even have a plan, but if they fail at the first hurdle, it's a real big dignity shock, to have to go to your family who have always heralded you as some, you know, not you know, a hero in loosest terms, just to make the point, but they've always been very proud of your military service. You know, you can't go back because you just spent the last year telling everyone how excited you are to get out and on this new challenge. You know, so you take it on your own and you tend to spiral downwards. I think there's been so many in the past that have done that. Having somewhere where you can come and say, do you know what, I failed the interview. 15 people will jump on that thread and
Yeah,
say, yeah,
me too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I found one today as well. I felt dejected, but then I did this, or then I saw that, and then I thought about X, Y, and Z. And, you know, it's just bringing people together to have that shared experience, whether that's a positive one or even a negative one, so they can sort of bring themselves up, back up to par, I suppose.
I mean, I'm talking from a position of ignorance because I've never been a service member at all. And the closest I got to it, I think, was Scouts when I was at school, which obviously is nowhere near. But the one thing that the military seem to have is camaraderie that is unbeatable anywhere else, and that kind of team spirit. And again, getting people to bring that into the tech world is a massive need at the moment. And
Yeah,
one thing, just going off tangent a little bit, is all we hear about is people breaking into cybersecurity, but you're clearly called TechVets for a reason. And for me, I think there are very few entry level cybersecurity jobs. And from my own experience, I'm going to get shot now. From my own experience, sometimes taking a step into a non cyber but more tech role to start with could be a good move. I mean, give you an example, my learning path, I missed out completely the networking bit, which is fairly fundamental. So for me, I've taken a step back now. And if I was going to look for a career, I wouldn't be looking for one in cyber as a tech. I'd be looking at doing kind of networking or help
yeah,
desk, something that
absolutely.
could help that. Do you see
Yeah,
that a lot?
absolutely. Yeah, so I think one thing that we want to do with our community is we always try to manage their expectations. You know, you see some of these training vendors out there. We can get you on these, you know, boot camp, entry level boot camp courses, and you know, you can be a cyber specialist, and the average salary in the UK is 72k. And I'm thinking, well, as an entry level, they're probably not going to jump up to the CEO level, which is what they're using everything from that downwards, to make these calculations. So a focus on those, what I would regard as the entry level roles, system administrators, IT help desk, you know, and the help desk stuff. I mean, crikey, that has boomed. I mean, absolutely boomed, because you've got every single company in the world has gone almost entirely online, and their business is taking in more than ever and therefore clearly, you need more people on those help desks. But additionally, those system admins, those network engineers, even things like sales. People always talk about sales like it's a dirty word, but no one in the company gets paid if no one's selling anything. And you can have an incredible career, and someone like a military service leaver with the ability to engage with people in a meaningful way. Crikey, the commission you can get.
Massive. Massive.
Incredible,
Let me just
incredible.
say something else as well. I was talking to someone in the States about this the other day. They were talking to someone who's been in the service in the US for a long, long time, and they were very, very high ranking in the service as well. And they were trying to explain to them what the corporate world is like. And you said it a moment ago, salespeople are the heroes in the corporate world because the sales department is the department that brings the money in.
Yeah,
It's not the same in other worlds. And
yeah, yeah,
this particular gentleman, who I don't know, so I won't mention their name, they were coming in at a high rank, but not on the sales side, which to us would probably look like a fairly middle of the range job. And the
yeah,
problem that the person who was talking to them was trying to get across is that they're not going to be the 4-star general or whatever it was they were before when they come into the corporate world. And the
yeah.
sales world is a part that needs a lot of help in cybersecurity because the messages are disgraceful.
Yeah, absolutely. But, so I suppose the way that I would argue that TechVets provide support is across IT, and with our as a horizontal, with the verticals being cybersecurity and network infrastructure, um, and and some other areas that we're starting to develop and grow. But on the very start of that journey, you've got the more non-technical stuff, and the business support functions. Everyone from business development and sales. You think of, I mean, crikey, a wonderful company that I've worked with before, never for, is Recorded Future, a cyber threat intelligence vendor. Wonderful platform, but you need someone who understands the technical aspects of the platform. You need someone who understands cyber threat intelligence, and that individual is not going out into one customer. All sorts of customers from across all sorts of industries with different tech stacks, different missions, visions, and outputs, and therefore you're learning so much. And then if you want to go into something more technical, you've got the space, you've got the training budgets to do that. You've got the continued support of organizations like TechVets, or VetSec, in the US, for example. I know there's a few on the call. That support doesn't stop once you get a job. But it's all about understanding your timeline. I think that's really important. I'm creating a blog series at the moment based on, I tried to link it to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because when people are planning to leave, they first think about what certifications do I need? How much money do I need? Whereas that's slightly further on. First, you need to decide whether or not you want a career change. And that is
Yeah.
fundamentally key, that essential need for change, and whether or not your situation, warrants that. Once you start getting into that, oh, well, what do I want to do as a career? The next step isn't even thinking about the role. You should be thinking about the industry you want to go into, or the sector to start with. Do
Yeah.
you want to be serving the public? Or do you want to be thinking about the bottom line and supporting the economy? Or do you want to support people who really need your help in the third sector? And then you've got to think about the company. Do you want to be in a big company, or do you want to be in a small one? A small one, you're going to feel it like it's got a heartbeat and feel the impact, but it's going to be manic. Or
It's
do you
the
want to be in
difference
something
between
where you get
job
the
roles
support?
as well, James, isn't it? Because
Oh, Christ.
I don't know, let's use a business development manager role at a blue
Yeah.
chip compared to a 30-man firm is going to be completely
Oh,
different.
absolutely, absolutely. And again, it all comes down to the networking. And people think networking gets them a job. It may well do. It's just one slice of the networking pie. And networking is incredibly important, because if you do it for long enough before you make that decision, when by the time you're starting to make the decision of what career you want to move into, you know more about yourself as an individual. What sort of culture do I want to be a part of? What sort of tech stack do I want to be working with? What sort of missions and visions can I buy into? Now, the wonderful thing about cybersecurity and technology in general is that there is no one industry. It's the
No.
tech sector, and
It's
it
the support
spans across
industry, isn't it?
everything. So
Yeah.
if you're excited about renewables, you can get stuck into green tech. If you're really excited about financial side of things,
There's something wrong.
yeah,
Sorry,
then
I was in financial services for 20 years, so I can say
well,
that.
but you've got the excitement now around blockchain
You
and the
have.
digital currencies
It's
and,
a different
and
world. I had a conversation about
crypto
NFTs
assets.
earlier that I understood about 10% of. So that was
Yeah,
interesting. I
yeah,
just want
absolutely.
to mention this quickly. Donald, you've put a comment on there. Please learn to love learning Linux and networking. Donald, I
Yeah.
do, but I spent the whole of 2020 after doing A plus, then jumping straight through cyber to thinking I could do OSCP. So I kind of spent 9 months on Linux, Kali in particular, Wireshark, Nmap, all these things, and it was the most rewarding and the most frustrating time of my life. It, I've ended up getting distracted by coming in at the industry with the sales role, but I have started learning again. So I just wanted to get that across. I am back to my Kali instance, although if anyone knows how to recover a corrupt Kali ISO file, please reach out.
Well, I think it is a really good point. Now, what we're saying to people in our community is, if you're starting from zero, you've got to learn the foundations first. Even if you're going into a delivery manager role or a project management role, it's good to understand the foundations of the systems that you're going to be working with, how data moves across them, and how technologies can integrate with one another. I think that is important. So we tend to steer people towards things. We've got plenty within our Veteran Digital Cyber Academy around the
Who do you use
foundation.
for, what do you use for networking, learning
Well,
networking?
essentially, we've got plenty within the Immersive Labs Academy that we have, but additionally, to link it to a certification, we push people towards Professor Messrs A plus, Network plus, Security plus.
Okay.
Now, the way that we always frame that is, you can learn all that for free. It's all on YouTube, and it's great stuff. It's industry recommended. You don't need all 3 certifications. If you want them, fine. But that's, understanding how to solve the problems with those skills is more important when you get to technical interview, and being able to showcase that. But also, people forget, getting through the door is one thing. You've got a 6-month probation period.
You
So
got to do the job.
if you blag your way through and get found out in week 2, it's not going to be a pleasant experience. So you want to build the skills so that first 6 months you're not drowning.
Yeah.
You'll be supported by the organisation if you've done your research and you've joined the right organisation with the right culture that fits you. Then you're already halfway there. They'll support you to develop those skills, but you don't want to be drowning when you get in there. And the Professor Messer stuff is great. You can rather than pay £3,000 for the course and the exams, you can do it all for free, and you can do it in your own time. You can lean on communities, whether that's, if you're not a veteran, you can lean on InfoSec. If you're a veteran, I've mentioned us and the others in the Five Eyes community. I'm sure there's others out there. There are communities that you can lean on. Things like Cyber Mentor Dojo, is it?
Yeah, that's it.
They do a lot of stuff around that side of things. So you've got the support there, but then you can get yourself one exam. And I wouldn't personally, unless you're going straight in and you want to get a job quickly, I wouldn't even recommend the A plus certification, unless you're going to a specific role, and that's what you're worried about. But if you want to get a foot in the door as a network specialist, then definitely get a Network plus.
I mean, the only thing I'd say about A plus is I've always loved tech. I've always had computers since I was 8. I think I have my first one, which was a ZX Spectrum. And
Yeah.
ironically, I was always the go-to when I had my own firm if people had any problems with their computers.
Yeah.
So I thought, for me, stepping into cybersecurity, I thought I had a good grounding. Then I picked up A plus.
Yeah.
And I realized that I didn't actually know half as much as I thought I did. So whilst a lot of it is irrelevant, perhaps, to what I was learning for pen testing, knowing how everything's kind of built from a physical point of view definitely helps when you're trying to understand a network diagram or anything else, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, in that sort of physical component, part of tech, which is pretty much where A plus sits. And seeing Kerry's question, absolutely, there is definitely still room for troubleshooting, building computers, But how many people have devices these days? How many people can afford to just buy a brand new device when they're looking at £700 plus for a half decent laptop? And if you're anyone in cybersecurity or tech, you're going to want a decent build. There's definitely still work in that stream.
Well, I know Kerry's looking for work at the moment, and Kerry, I'm going to say something now that I've never actually said online. Before I got into cybersecurity, I was to set up my own business to actually do PC repairs, which was kind of another reason for doing A plus. And we've got a little book in the UK. I think you call it, what is it in the States? It's Gumtree here, or Nextdoor, or I think you've got Nextdoor over in the States. that there's an awful lot of people needing help from a technical point of view locally with their computers in my area in the UK. I don't know what it's like in the States, but if you're looking for work, there's a lot to be said for offering that out as a service if you're competent. It's just my.
Yeah, I think there's no better way than getting your hands on stuff. If you're going into a technical career track, then getting your hands on stuff is clearly, it's the best way of doing things.
Absolutely. Right. I'm conscious I've got a list of things I wanted to cover off with you, James. So I'm just going to have a quick look at that. I think we've talked about most of them, but I want to talk a little bit about how you support military families, because I know. Am I back? Am I back?
I can hear you.
This is the joy of Starlink.
Oh,
I'm dropping out again.
yeah. Yeah.
We've got a partial
day.
obstruction for our Starlink dish. So every hour and 11 minutes, I'll get cut out. So if it happens again, James, you'll have to juggle or keep people amused. I'm sorry about that.
No worries. I was dreading this tonight because it's been chucking it down. And usually, I'm down in Folkestone, and usually when it rains down here, there's something with the internet, it just drops. So luckily, we've managed to hold on.
We've done quite well so far. So I'm not sure if you heard what I said, but I was probably talking to myself. But I was talking about supporting military families.
Yeah. So at the moment, it's very ad hoc. Carol, that was a bad joke. So you probably could have done with some of those. I think this is so. It's always been an aspiration of mine to support families. Having left the military and looking back at my time, my wife had an incredible challenge of having to keep moving and a broken career, etc. And I think the pressure was on me because of that as the primary earner. So by supporting the partners and spouses, clearly we can improve the economic output of an entire family, improve their chances. It means that the service leavers don't have to just focus on whatever pays the most. They can potentially start going into roles that they really want. So far, as I said, it has been ad hoc. We've chucked a few things over, but in March we will be going live with a full suite of support. So the only way I can do that is with my amazing parent organisation, RFEA, the Forces Employment Charity. I brought us into a merger with them. It's been ongoing, as you can imagine. One person doing a merger is quite a challenge. Luckily, they've been incredible, but they are all about employment for veterans and their families and service leavers. So they've already got a program set up, the Families Program. So they've got a way in which they can verify people and bring them in, and then they'll just be handed over, and they can get access to TechVets. We haven't ironed out all the details on the technical aspects of the registration process, but that will be fairly easy. By the end of March, I will be going live with it, and that way they will get access to everything: the community, all the training, as well as the employment support. Thankfully, all of my 30+ strategic partnerships, all of them have come back and said we would love to support them, which made my life incredibly easy. So huge thanks to them. But yeah, so that'll be it. That will really take us up a notch, maximising that support within the entirety of the military community.
That's amazing. Now let's think of a good question to ask you, an insightful one, Simon. Let's think about being in the military now is tough. There's a pretty horrendous situation going on in Europe at the moment. I'm not going to dwell on politics, but we see a lot of air traffic.
I am glad. I was starting to panic of where that could have been going.
And I'm not going to mention Trump either. It's fine. We've seen a lot of military traffic, going over in the airspace where we are. And for people looking to get out of the military, I suppose, what's the biggest bit of advice you'd give to them on making that decision to leave? Would it be don't leave, or would it be make sure you're doing the right thing? What would you say?
So first and foremost, I would not make a decision, full stop, until I'd done a bit more digging. And that's the most important thing. If you want to leave the military because things just aren't what you want them to be, if you're not getting what you want out of your life, your career, your standard of living isn't what you want it to be, or you're ready for change, then absolutely, then it can be right. If you just want more money, fine. Whatever motivates you, that's the start point. At that point, still don't make a decision to leave the military. There's still more to do. The moment you make that decision and hand in your notice to leave, you are on a ticking time bomb, which will detonate in a very, very quick space of time. You need time on your side. So if you're preparing to leave, if you think you want to leave, the first thing you want to do is consider the decision. If you're, make sure you. I mean, I had to make sure my wife was absolutely in on every part of the planning, because it was a family move. There's enough upheaval, so make sure it's right for everyone. Once you're happy, do your research into what sort of career path would look like. What sort of thing you'd be interested in, what sort of company or industry. Beyond that, one thing that people don't ever really think about is the financial implications. They think they're going to jump out and hit a big salary. What they don't realize is straight away a chunk of that salary will come off from healthcare and dental. Another chunk will come off for lunches and coffees. Another chunk will come off because you need more than one suit. Another chunk will come off for commuting. Yeah. And one thing that I always say to people is, I had a wonderful pay rise, but immediately when I left, I was paying £735 a month for a train ticket. So straight away, that salary is dropped. There are more hybrid and fully remote roles, but that's not a given. So think about your financial well-being and your management of that, your plan ahead. Are you going to have a comfort zone that supports you should you hit bad times? And with all that planning in mind, if you think that you're in a healthy position to do so, then make the jump. But the only other bit to take into consideration there is, if you want to get into a technical role, you can't learn a technical role in a 5-day bootcamp course. You need to build those skills over time. And if you don't think you're going to get the time in your resettlement year, because the way things are, I know people that are being pulled all over the place at the moment into various different tasks because of the nature of the military, and they're not getting the time to do their resettlement stuff properly. So again, what I would do is, if you want to get into, let's say, cybersecurity, perfect, because that's what we're here to discuss, then I would essentially build up enough skills to be able to pass A+ and Network+, and possibly even Security+. I would then spend that next year, having known that I've now put in my notice, building up other skills, supporting skills, cloud technologies, other things that are going to benefit whatever pathway in cyber you want to go into. Additionally, it's never too early to start networking. So make sure you start engaging. And the key theme for military people is there are an incredible amount of veterans out there who will bend over backwards to help you out. So make sure you link you with them. If you're worried about where to start, then start there. And if you're really struggling, you've got thousands of people on TechVets platform.
So, personal question then, James. This is more out of interest, because I'm sure the people in the military will know. What's the situation then with people who haven't handed their notice in, having LinkedIn accounts and starting to do that networking? Can that be an issue, or?
So I worked in military intelligence for my last.
So you're the perfect person to ask then.
Yeah, 9 years, and I created my LinkedIn account properly with about 5 years to go, and I had a lot of stuff on there. None of it was anything sensitive. It was a translation of skills rather than anything that was going to be raising eyebrows. But yeah, absolutely. And even if you don't want to put stuff on there, you can go on as a LinkedIn member and use the platform to start understanding, tapping into the job applications, the job ads that are on there, and start to have a look at the things that people are asking for as requirements. Well, actually, I've got that. I don't have that yet. I wonder if I can do a short course on that to cover that skill set. I wonder if there's a book I can read that's going to help me understand this. And you can start factoring in the bits that you're missing. So LinkedIn is a very powerful tool for all manner of things. You definitely can use it. We'll be running a quarterly session on that anyway, but there are others also doing LinkedIn stuff. If you're a service leaver, definitely engage with the Career Transition Partnership. Not everyone has a great experience going through them, but it's what you make of it. And there are some fantastic support mechanisms that they provide. They've got 9,000 odd companies that they're working with across the UK, all manner of jobs available, CV support. But additionally, they also have things like understanding LinkedIn.
Yeah, which definitely helps. I mean, I was interested because I didn't know if it would be a conflict with people going on there. I know what it's like if you're in Civvy Street and you start jumping on LinkedIn and spending too much time on there, your employer can get annoyed. So I didn't want to start encouraging people in the military to do the same and then get in trouble.
I encourage everyone, if they're considering leaving, definitely. I mean, you can see now there's more and more people who in the military who have public-facing accounts who are still serving, and they're very, very active on Twitter as well as on LinkedIn. And this had to be something that changed. How can you engage and recruit people from a modern society when you're not going to the right places in the right way to engage with them? So that had to change anyway. Now, I mean, clearly there is a sensitive aspect to this. Please don't go onto LinkedIn and start chucking in loads and loads of stuff that you know is a little bit grey. If you think, oh, I should be putting it on there, then I would personally, I would ask someone first. But you know, you don't need to put locations, you don't need to put bases, you don't need to put units. You know, it can be something as simple. You know, I was an intelligence requirements manager. I had that as a job title. What did I do? I managed customers and clients' requirements and made sure that they were resourced, which essentially helped them make decisions. You know, and that's something that's fairly simple, and there's nothing in there that's sensitive. And there's ways in which you can articulate things, which actually, if you put stuff that's sensitive on there, the business world won't understand it anyway, so it's pointless.
No, I was going to say that. I think the big point for me is it's never too early to start, and it takes time to build up a network of people. It really does, a decent network, and TechVets is a huge help for that. But to build up on LinkedIn, it takes time. So
the engagement is a tricky one. The engagement is really tricky. So many people don't really know how to engage with their network. You know, and we tell people you should be actively engaging with them. The one thing that I always wanted to point out to people is that don't jump on and tell people you're going on a course. No one cares. If you want to use that, then tell them, but tell them what you want to get out of it. Tell them how
relate it to what it's going to achieve. Yeah. Exactly. If I see, I'm going to get shouted at now. But if I see anyone else who's got top 2% on Try Hack Me on their profiles, I know it does display stuff. I know it shows that people are working hard. But I also know that if you Google the answers, you can do it in 45 minutes. And so does every other employer. That's the problem.
Well, you know, I see people jumping on and saying, "Look, I'm on this Agile Foundation course next week, and I'm waiting." You know what? Okay, so what you get? I'm looking forward to understanding, you know, how to manage a team through the Agile process. Especially interested in diving into software development teams, you know, later down the line. I'm just wondering what else I can bolt onto this from the community. Brilliant. So you've got what you're doing, you've got what you think and what you want to get out of it and where you're heading, and now you're asking the community to add some value. You know, that's a bit more engaging rather than just I'm doing this course.
Again, let me take my foot out of the mouth on the Try Hack Me one, because I did see a very good post earlier where someone had actually related it to capturing the flag. So someone had talked about the challenge they'd done on Try Hack Me, why that could be good for bug bounties, how it relates. You see, that post was brilliant because then
Well, Try Hack Me is really good. You know, we are partnered with them, but we're partnered with them for a reason. You know, they're really good at taking someone from that start point, and even things like how to install a virtual machine. They've got some great pathways. The content's engaging, and it enables the beginners to really get stuck in before they.
Without wanting to give them too much free publicity, I think they've also released something new the last few days with regards to organisations and schools. I think, which enable you to have team-based approach, which is something that I think has been missing on there.
There's a really nice handover there as well, because you've got your normal search channels, and you're doing all the Try Hack Me stuff at the side. Once you get to that sort of level, you know, you can then easily jump into Hack the Box. You know, where you need a slightly higher technical skill level. You know, and you can carry on with Try Hack Me, but you can then start engaging with the Hack the Box stuff. And
I wish I'd have known about Try Hack Me. I went straight in with Hack the Box, and I got obsessed.
So I own our TechVets team account, and one of my volunteers made me go through the original registration process. We were up till 2 a.m. I still don't have a clue how he got me from A to B and got me in there.
Well, it was the most exciting thing for me. I don't think you have to do that anymore, but when I was on there, you had to sort of hack your way in.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was just like a web app. It wasn't too tricky, but if you didn't know the process, it was next.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I spent 2 days on it before.
Yeah, it blew my mind. It blew my mind. My speciality was understanding how things like state-sponsored cyber threat actors were going to target certain things. I have no idea about how to actually break into the boxes myself.
I'm glad you didn't tell me that at the start of the conversation, or I'd have been talking to you for an hour about state-sponsored attacks.
Oh, crikey. Hey, look, I'm well out of sync now. The moment you take your foot off the pedal, you've lost it.
Well, the only comment I'm going to make at the moment is we're either seeing the world's best poker bluff I've ever seen, or it's all going to kick off tomorrow. One of the two. But let's not talk politics and war. It isn't a cheery subject. I'm conscious that we are running right out of time. Anything you want to add at the end as a message, James, before we finish?
Look, I mean, I think essentially, if you are British military at any stage, whether you've left or you're still in or you're in the process of leaving, definitely get in touch with TechVets if you're curious about tech. Even if you just want to brush up on your digital skills, we have a basic digital skills training course as well, and you can speak to people that have made that jump in a really sort of informal way. Even if it's just talking about what you call your boss, what did you do for lunches and that sort of stuff. Understanding the outside world. But yeah, it's all free. Sign up at techvets.co. And again, make sure you look out for your respective organisations, the vet sector of the world as well, because they're there to help you if you're not in the UK.
We've got a veterans section in the community. I'm going to build out a bit in there for UK veterans and point them towards you guys at TechVets.
Yeah,
so when people arrive, they know where to go, because at the moment I'm spending a lot of time pointing people in the right direction. So I'm trying to automate that pointing process so that people work out where they need to go. So I'm hoping TechVets can be a part of that signpost procedure that I'm putting together. But
yeah,
James,
absolutely.
it's been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for your time. It's been enlightening for me, and I'm sure it has for all of our viewers too. I just want to say a huge thank you to a couple of other people. I think it's RMEA who are...
RFEA.
Sorry, you said it right. Thank you so much for also sharing this stream today on your feed. That's amazing. And also thanks to Jax at Outpost Grey. Thank you so much for sharing the stream on yours too. Also, a big thanks out to all the community members who watch us and watch every episode. It is really, really appreciated. And without you guys and girls, it wouldn't be happening. So keep watching. James, it's been amazing. Thank you so, so much. I'm going to play us out with a little bit of news from our sponsor. Now, it isn't our sponsor on this show, but we have landed our first sponsor for one of our live streams, which starts next week.
Right.
So rather than spoil it, I'll say goodbye and I'll play out with a word from the sponsor of our new stream. James, thank you so much, everyone.
No, thanks for having me. Take care.
Hey there, I'm Jerry Ozier, information security professional and chief content creator at Simply Cyber, the YouTube channel designed to help you make and take a cybersecurity career further, faster. I am pleased to sponsor this stream in collaboration with InfoSec Live, and I hope you're getting value out of it. If you're an individual who's looking to either break into the cybersecurity industry or take your game to the next level in the industry, may I suggest checking out Simply Cyber. We have the YouTube channel, but it's also so much more. It's a full community. If you go to simplycyber.io/Discord, you can join the Discord server, which has a great deal of like-minded cybersecurity professionals, an inclusive community, sharing resources, answering questions, and just helping each other network and advance in the cybersecurity industry. I hope you can join us. Thank you.